Eighth Grade, released in 2018, written and directed by Bo Burnham, known mainly for being a stand-up comedian, and this was his first feature film. And if you read up on him, he actually got his break on YouTube, posting videos of himself singing his own songs, and then later on, as he transitioned to stand-up, he continued to incorporate music into his show. And I'd really recommend watching at least some of his bits because he's an extremely smart guy, one of those stand up artists who are comedians on the surface, but their material is actually an incredibly intelligent commentary on society and culture and other heavy topics. In some ways, he, to me, has been reminiscent of Bill Hicks and George Carlin. Only Bo is, I think, less jaded and more introspective. His stuff certainly comes off as more personal, and he's easier to relate to because he presents himself as this young, slightly awkward guy with problems of his own. So he's been quite successful and renowned at stand up, and then he decided to make a movie, which was Eighth Grade. Released in 2018, it received a number of awards on various festivals. It opened to high critical acclaim and was lauded as one of the best indie movies of that year. It stars Elsie Fisher as Kayla, a girl on the verge of finishing 8th grade and transitioning into high school. Like Bo himself, she records YouTube videos as a hobby, but outside of that, she's a very awkward, slightly antisocial girl. Not very popular, doesn't really connect with others her age, looks like a normal girl, doesn't look like a model, and in general goes through a lot of the issues and challenges that all kids face at that age. And so the film itself doesn't really have a specific plot to it. It's a mix of coming of age story and just a snapshot of life in those very specific circumstances, being a middle school student. And I thought it does those things in an absolutely fantastic way. The first thing that I have to say is how true and honest it is. The situations that happen to Kayla, the dialogue, the interactions with other people, it feels like real life, not a film. Part of the reason is, of course, the writing, but I also have to commend the filmmakers for using people who are the same age as the characters they're portraying. That's actually, a problem in American movies where high schoolers are actually actors who are 30 years old. Not this time around. Elsie Fisher herself started working on the film just weeks after finishing 8th grade herself. The second big thing about the film is how soul-crushingly awkward and cringy it can be. And don't get me wrong, this is very much intentional. After all, it puts us in the shoes of a girl who is socially awkward and just begins to slowly try and find her way to even communicate with her peers and her dad and other people. But it has to be said, the film uses certain situations and does them so effectively that the second-hand embarrassment while watching is very real. I was wincing occasionally, and there were moments I just wanted to sort of leave the room, do not feel the cringe. And I'm fairly resistant to those sort of things. So if you're one of the people that has trouble with those, it's not a movie for you, I'm afraid. You won't be able to stand it. I guarantee it. But, again, this is a testament to how well the film is written and directed, because as embarrassed as I felt, I never thought to myself, this doesn't feel real, this is fabricated. It hurt more because I experienced similar stuff in my youth, or I saw other people experience it. And even the stuff that I didn't was completely believable still. I thought the movie especially nails the relationship between Kayla and her dad, who is kind of a dork. Remembering my own sister at that age, this is just 100% spot on. I also want to say that the movie wouldn't work as well if perhaps not for the central performance, and Elsie Fisher is absolutely amazing in it, to the point that after the film I wondered about her role and thought, maybe this is just great casting, maybe that's what she's like in real life. But it turns out the character is the polar opposite of the actress, so that's even more impressive. Another thing is that after all this cringe and those embarrassing situations, the movie sort of finds its emotional center. There's a one scene of conversation of Kayla and her dad towards the end, which kind of rounds it up in a very warm, very heartfelt way. So I have to say, in general, I loved 8th grade. I hated some of the ways it made me feel, but I loved how effectively it did that. And Bo Burnham himself, when asked about his future as a filmmaker, said that he doesn't currently plan on making any more movies. He did stand-up when it felt right for him. Then he did a movie because he wanted to tell the story. and who knows what he'll do next. And that to me is an incredibly honest approach, and I'm really eager to see what it is that he does next. And if it does end up being another film, I will be sure to watch it.